Looking at last week's film, what kind of evaluation did you have? I mean, obviously, defense played, kind of on top of its head. But what was your evaluation?
Well, I thought, I've said this. I feel like through the week in a couple different scenarios. I think I even said it the day of the game at the with the halftime interviews. I just felt like, we grew up a ton in the first 45 minutes. We not having exhibitions and not playing any matches, and then coming out, against preseason top three team, very veteran team. I thought that we learned a lot in 45 minutes. And going back and watching film, it was evident as well that we did much better in the second half than the first. And a lot of that is just due to them, learning the speed of the game and the physicality of the game. And even in saying that, going back and watching film, I thought we did probably better in the first half than I first thought watching from the sideline. We were able to connect some passes and get out of some pressure decently. We weren't able to create really a ton of opportunities for ourselves, but I think we had some pieces in place that we can definitely build off of.
How do you turn? I mean, obviously, defense is your key, but how do you turn that around and maybe do create some more opportunities this week?
Well, the main problem we had is that, through the first few weeks of the preseason that we had is we had a lot of success amongst ourselves offensively, possession, connecting passes, but of course the replicating the speed of play when you don't have many veterans to replicate it, it was difficult. So we needed to see it. So I think even through yesterday's training was really the first day we got back to high pace. Even seeing that was better than it's been, just because now we the veterans remember and the freshmen now know that everything has to be played a little bit faster. And you have to experience it, and when you're not comfortable, your head goes down and you don't see as much. So as you get more comfortable, your eyes come up and you see a little bit more of the field, and that's going to be the transition. And it won't happen overnight, but I think over the next couple of weeks we'll see a little bit better offensive connections amongst our players.
Thanks, Paul.
John Warner.
Paul, your first road game, do you expect to learn a lot about how you got to travel, during the Corona time? And, will you be thinking about all those kind of little things along the way?
Yeah, I mean, we've been planning for the road trip for a number of weeks now, just trying to brainstorm, and we know things will slip up on us that we didn't plan for, but had a great conversation on Monday with the other Big 12 head coaches, and with the ones who had traveled and the ones of us that hosted. We just shared ideas and things that worked and things that didn't work. So that's been helpful. And so, yeah, we, like everything else with this COVID season, you're as planned as you can be. But as Mike Tyson said, right, everybody's got a great plan until they get punched in the face.
And you guys, Maddie said you are traveling by bus this time. I guess you're taking two to social distance. Is that kind of the plan?
Yeah, I mean, with the whole thing with the close contacts, having to quarantine for 14 days, we'll have negative tests before we get on the bus, and we'll be fine probably all the way there because we won't stop and go in anywhere. But if someone were to contract the virus in Lubbock, Texas, we didn't find out till we got back. Two buses and being able to socially distance on the bus is going to help eliminate those close contacts.
Thanks.
All right, Matt.
I feel like such a scientist, by the way, talking about all that.
Pulled it off
My,
greatly.
yeah,
Much
my
better.
accounting degree is really coming into play.
Well, you sound like one too, Paul. So.
Oh, thanks.
Well, Coach, you look at a team like Texas Tech, it's a veteran team, but they have not played an actual match. Does that give y'all an advantage having played a full speed match already?
It definitely, I don't know how much of an advantage compared to Tech it'll give us, but it definitely is helpful for us, right, in our process of growing and developing. You can sit there and you can measure all you want. You can say, hey, it's their first game, they haven't played, or they're veterans, or they're at home, they'll be excited, or they were out because of Corona. How many kids have actually been training for the last 2 weeks? But the reality is we can't calculate and we can't measure. We've got to look at the things that we've got to accomplish this week, and we've done a great job through our training process to prepare best we can to be the best team that we can be against Tech, who's a really good pick to win the league this year. rightfully so, because of their veteran players that they have coming back.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Will,
Coach, Maddie mentioned it, but Texas Tech has a very physical and tall team, especially in the midfield. How do you guys plan around that?
Well, we'll challenge for every air ball. We're known for how good we are in the air, whether we're tall or short. We're good in the air. We train it, and we'll try to use their size against them. Somebody like a Gabby and a Maddie, they're smaller midfield players, but they use their size really, really well. Low center of gravity, they hold players off really well, and they move the ball quickly. So against bigger players, you got to move the ball quickly and not get stuck with it. And that's something that they do a really good job of. But we're always up for the physical matchup. We're kind of known to be that team also. So I think we're excited about that.
JMO,
Paul, playing on turf, do you tactically do anything different, or do you just play your game and it just happens to be on turf?
Yeah, you just play your game. It's more taxing kind of on the body if you're not used to it. The ball does bounce a little bit differently and runs a little bit differently. But when we get up there tomorrow night, we'll get an opportunity to get on it. The great thing is it's not like, the old days when everybody played on grass and they got to college and some of these colleges had turf. Most of these girls, especially our Midwestern kids, well, I can't say that. A lot of our Dallas kids too played on turf. So it's not new to them. It'll just kind of have to bring back some memories of how that ball bounces and how it travels.
Jerry,
Well, like you said, they're the preseason favorite, but when you look back at last year's 2 games, y'all were right there with them, outshot them, I think, in both games, kind of dominated shots. Can you take something from that? What do you take from those 2 games last year?
Honestly, not a whole lot. I think the things that we're taking from last year with our veterans is just how inconsistent we were throughout the season, and I would say even against Tech, I think the Tech games just within the game, how inconsistent we were in those matches. So this team is so new. You're right. We're starting 4 freshmen, playing 7. It's got a whole totally different mentality and attitude. So I think if we're taking anything from last year, it's just how can we be more consistent with the way that we play and with our mentality when we step into the match.
How did you come out of that game health-wise, and do you get anybody back this week?
Came out tired. They hadn't played more than probably 35 consecutive minutes in a training session, 11v11 yet, and then they played 110. So, definitely tired. So a lot of recovery this week. We don't have any new people coming back, but, the girls that had returned to play that got little minutes are making great progress, no setbacks. So for me, that's a win.
Thanks, Paul.
Matt,
You said y'all are going to get on the turf up there, get a chance to work with it, and the girls have played on it before in high school and things like that. But do y'all spend any time this week trying to get on a turf field here on campus just to get some extra work on that?
In a non-COVID year, we would have, but there's not really the access to it that we've had in the past. So, but we've had so many other things. Really, if we'd had a really veteran team that we didn't have really a lot of other things to work on, we probably would have forced the issue a little bit. But we're trying to take the focus so much off of everyone else and put it on ourselves that the turf was so far down the line of worries right now. And I don't even use the word worries. We've just got so many other things that we've got to work on with such a young team that the battle of getting on a turf field wasn't really high on the priority list.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
anybody else?
Just
Maybe.
before we go, I just wanted to, I said this, I think, on JMO's show earlier in the week, but just if it's possible, just a huge shout out to Baylor University and just the folks that made it possible for us to play last weekend. As we've seen around the country, football games being canceled, soccer games being canceled, but just a huge shout out to, just probably hundreds of people that I couldn't even name all of them in a 5-minute segment, just that went above and beyond to make sure that our young women and our TCU young women got on the field this last week. And we're not guaranteed another game any future weekend. So we're just super excited to be able to get out there and people to see sports live again here in Waco. And just a big shout out to our community and our Baylor Athletic Department and Baylor University for making this all happen.